Welcome back to another college football breakdown. I'm Julia Haskins along with Bree Henschel, and week one is over. If your team is in the ACC, you either had a great weekend or a rough weekend. You have UVA, Boston College, Pitt, and Wake Forest blowing out all of their opponents. But then you also had some closer matchups. Bree, what did you think of those?
I'm going to start it off by talking a little bit about UNC and Virginia Tech. That game was crazy. I don't think anyone predicted that to happen. I did not think that Sam Howell, seeing what he did in the past, thought he was going to come in strong, confident, but he looked a little bit shaken up out there. And I thought maybe UNC, more so than Virginia Tech, could be our possible ACC championship contender, and now I'm thinking a little bit more Virginia Tech might have an edge over them. Another game I think is worth talking about is that Florida State Notre Dame game. That went to overtime, and I personally thought that Florida State had a little bit of an edge over Notre Dame, holding on, coming back in the last quarter. But I'm excited to see what ends up happening down the road for those two teams.
And then you also had, of course, Miami, Alabama, the 44-13. I was expecting a little more out of De'Aaron King and Manny Diaz in that offense, but it's early in the season, and Alabama is one of the best defenses in the country. So, Miami, another possible ACC championship matchup against Clemson. So we'll see. But of course, we have the Clemson-UGA matchup, which so much to dive into there. The Bulldogs won over the Tigers 10-3. And before we get into what went right, let's dive into what went wrong.
I was hoping to see a little bit more excitement at the wide receiver position. I picked Justin Ross last weekend as my player of the game. He did not perform like I thought he would coming back from his injury. Someone that did step up for us, though, was Joseph Ngata, and I think he had a great game. Again, in order to make those plays and win these games, we're going to need our wide receivers to step up and show the talent that they are able to showcase. I think that is something that we were really missing on this last game. And another thing is DJ Uiagalelei. He played last year in his game against Boston College and Notre Dame, and we saw a different DJ. And I will also note that the way he has been dealing with this loss is very mature. I think he's holding his head high. He's looking towards the future for the Tigers, and I think that if he keeps it up, I think that we're going to have a great season ahead of us.
There's a lot to unpack here. I think it was 50% O-line, 50% quarterback, and then you have an unbelievable defense with Georgia. You put all that together and it creates this perfect storm for Clemson. I was disappointed in the O-line just because we do have a lot of experienced guys there. You have McFadden, Bockhorst, Will Putnam. Didn't think we would see them struggle that much on that end of things. And again, like you were mentioning, so much depth at the wide receiver and the tight end position. And it was disappointing to see that they didn't execute there. But then it was nice to see, too, Tony Elliott taking some of the blame for not executing on offense. Take a look.
Definitely in a game like that, you want to evaluate. You always got 20/20 in hindsight. Probably should have stuck with the run game a little bit more. It felt like it wasn't there as much as. And when you go back and watch the tape, we were actually creating some holes, and we had some RPO stuff if we hand a couple balls off. So probably stick with the run game, and definitely down there in the red zone. Got a little anxious, wanted to get that ball in the end zone. Went 3 straight passes there. Probably should have ran it on first down. See if we could get a couple more yards there, and then also right after the turnover. I said it, after the game. I looked down on the call sheet, was reading the call off, and got 2 similar calls, and I called it wrong and put DJ in a tough situation that resulted in a sack, which now got us out of field goal range. So those are a couple of things that I could do better.
Tony Elliott says that this weekend in their game against South Carolina State, he hopes to focus on building cohesion in the O-line and balancing the running and passing game, which I would love to see him utilizing the running backs a little bit more. I know we were worried about who would replace the shoes of Travis Etienne, but this weekend, the running backs collected minimal yards. So
I don't think that running back position got enough credit for the loss of Travis Etienne there.
And it makes you wonder, too, there's not a lot of depth at the quarterback position. Was DJ told, hey, don't run? Another thing to think about, and I thought we would see the Tigers, passing the ball a lot more, and I think that was their plan, but again, unfortunately, facing a great defense like the Bulldogs, it's going to be difficult. Clemson's not going to face another defense like that until the playoffs again. So it makes you wonder how well they're going to be able to prepare if they do have a spot in the playoffs.
You know, I think everyone's more nervous about Clemson and them making it to the playoffs, but something goes to say for Georgia too. The only points that they scored were off of a pick six. I think it's really going to be interesting to see what the Tigers do going forward. They have that strong defense. They played excellent. They had James Skalski. They had safety Andrew Makuba. They had all
Miles
those
Murphy
people.
had some great sacks.
They had all those people. So I think the main thing that still gives me hope for the Tigers to make a national championship is this defense. And here's what sixth-year linebacker James Skalski had to say about their performance.
You know, before the Georgia game, we had a pretty terrible showing versus Ohio State, where when we weren't physical, we weren't, you know, we didn't play Clemson football. So I think we were just happy that we played Clemson football again Saturday night. We were, you know, mean and physical, and got nasty, in the trenches, and that's how we like it. So just a bunch of guys having a good time playing football. That's what happened Saturday night.
For pre-live and post-game coverage, be sure to keep up with the Clemson Insider.